They didn't ask. They just decided. And like always, I was supposed to smile, nod, and clean up the fallout. My name is Tessa Monroe. I'm 31 years old and I've lived in Portland, Oregon for the last 6 years. I work as a financial analyst for a mid-size logistics company. Nothing flashy, but stable. Quiet apartment, quiet job, quiet life, no drama, no noise. Everything I have, I earned. My degree, my condo, my spotless credit, my IKEA bookshelf I assembled with blistered hands. Mine. No favors, no rescues. But ask my family and they'll tell you I'm distant. Not because I'm cruel. I just stopped cushioning everyone else's chaos. See, I have a younger brother, Landon, 3 years younger, but always treated like he was made of glass. Landon doesn't just make mistakes. He creates cautionary tales. He's charming, sure. But every wreck he walks into somehow becomes someone else's responsibility. Another eviction. The landlord was vindictive. Lost his job? Management didn't value creativity. Behind on bills again. He's trying his best. And my parents, Rob and Denise, never question it. They just rearranged the furniture and asked me to cover the mortgage. You're responsible, Tessa. You're fortunate enough to help. That word has been chained to me for over a decade. Help with his tuition, help with his debt, help with damage, control. And when I finally said no, I became the problem. I figured out early on that love in my family wasn't unconditional, it was transactional. And when I stopped paying, the distance grew. So when I walked into Sunday dinner at my parents' house in Beaverton, I felt it. The tension. The script. Mom answered the door with that brittle cheer in her voice. You look tired, honey. Working. Too hard. Dad grunted a hello without looking up from the TV. Landon was already on his second drink, glued to his phone like a teenager who'd been grounded. I recognized the setup. When Mom acts sugar sweet and Dad goes mute, it means a decision's been made. A decision I wasn't part of, because they knew I'd say no, and I was right. We barely got through the appetizers before they dropped the bomb. Mom set her fork down, laced her fingers together like she was about to deliver a prayer instead of a decision, and gave me that gentle, saccharine smile she reserved for guilt-laced demands. Tessa, she began, her voice too soft to be casual. We've been talking. Landon's had a really tough time lately, and, well, he's going to be moving in with you for a bit. Just like that. No question, no discussion. She said it like she was handing me a slice of cake. Like of course I'd say yes. Like the idea of my unstable, boundary-breaking brother living in my space was something I should welcome with open arms. I felt it. The stillness that fell across the table. They were waiting for me to push back, to be the difficult one again. I glanced at Landon. He looked up for a split second, then back at his phone. My dad shifted in his chair, already tensing for the debate. Instead, I smiled. Of course, I said, my voice light. If it helps Landon get back on his feet, I don't see why not. The pause was sharp enough to slice through the air. Mom blinked, momentarily disoriented. Dad let out a long breath, clearly relieved. Landon leaned back, smugness blooming across his face like mold in the corners of a room no one cleans. What none of them noticed, what none of them thought to ask, was that I hadn't lived in that apartment in over a month. I hadn't told anyone I'd moved, or that the lease was transferred, or that the keys now belonged to someone else entirely. I didn't plan to lie to my family. It just evolved. Slowly. After years of being leveraged for my stability. After years of giving while they just expected. When I was 23, Landon's car got towed. He called in tears. Needed it for a life-changing job. My credit was clean. I co-signed. He quit 3 weeks later. Default. At 25, Mom cried about the mortgage. Dad had been laid off. Landon was back home. I wired $3,000. No thanks. At 28, Landon got a DUI. I paid for the attorney. No acknowledgement. The next year I said no, and Mom called me heartless. So now I just smiled while the stranger with the keys waited at the door. You've never understood what it means to worry about someone you love, Mom said. Landon's life is harder than yours. And that was the moment I stopped guessing and finally knew. They didn't see me. They saw his service. A faucet to turn when something broke, a credit score that cooked, a wallet with a heartbeat. So I started pulling away, gently, no dramatic declarations. Just soft no's where there used to be yeses, topic changes instead of advice. I'll think about it instead of I'll fix it, they noticed, and they didn't like it. One quiet evening, I sat in the living room of my downtown condo, the one I bought solo, furnished slowly with clearance finds, spreadsheets, and quiet persistence. I stared at the front door and realized I no longer felt safe there, because it wasn't really mine. When they wanted something, it was ours, like everything else. My time, my peace, my savings. So I made a decision. I called a realtor, sold the condo quietly, legally, without drama. I signed a lease on a rental across the river. Smaller, no skyline, view. But mine. No one asked where I'd moved. I didn't tell them. Not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. When your family only loves your usefulness, the kindest thing you can do for your own sanity is to become slightly unavailable. Just enough to exhale. By Monday, the text started. We'll bring Landon's mattress Saturday. Dad's boxing up his things Friday. He's excited to have space of his own finally. I didn't reply. They weren't talking to me. They were talking to the version of me they thought still existed. By Thursday, Mom was on a roll. Let me know if I should bring over cleaning supplies. Landon says he'll do his own laundry this time. He's bringing his own dishes. That one made me laugh into my coffee. Landon hadn't washed a plate sober in years. I let it all roll in. Didn't argue, didn't correct them. On Saturday morning, I left early. Just left. Grabbed a latte. Took the long way over the Hawthorne Bridge. Trolled through a local craft market I didn't plan to buy anything from. Let the sun hit my skin. My phone buzzed 3 times before I finally checked it. If you've ever been the responsible one, in a family that took you for granted, subscribe and stay with me. Because what happened after they showed up at my old apartment is something I'll never forget. Missed calls, voicemails. I let the 4th one ring through. It was Mom, but not the usual sing-song tone she used for favors. This was the brittle voice. The one made of nerves and veiled accusation. What's going on? She barked. There's someone here. Some man. Her voice wobbled. He says he lives in the condo now. Says you don't live there anymore. I let the silence stretch. Let her feel the disorientation. The unfamiliarity of not knowing. Of being left out. You didn't tell us, she snapped. You never said a word. No, I replied, calm. I didn't. I could hear them scrambling, bags rustling, muffled cursing, Dad's voice sharp and tense, Landon muttering something I couldn't catch. Tessa, Mom hissed. What is this? I sold the condo, I said plainly. Weeks ago. You... What? I moved out. Quietly. No one asked where I lived, so I didn't say. For a moment, nothing. I imagined them standing in front of that building, luggage at their feet, realizing they'd planned a quiet takeover only to find the castle belonged to someone else. Then Dad's voice cut through. You lied to us. No, I said. If it helps Landon, I didn't see why not. I never said where. Another pause. Then from Landon. So what now? We're just supposed to figure it out? His voice wasn't angry, just hollow, lost. And for a flicker of a second, I nearly softened. But I didn't. Because here's what they never understood. I didn't change the locks out of spite. I didn't sell my home to punish anyone. I did it because I needed space that was truly mine. Because every time I let them back in, I disappeared just a little more. And sometimes, the only way to be free is to stop making yourself available for sacrifice. They thought that would be the end of it. They were wrong. But by evening, they were at my door. I knew they'd find me. Mom doesn't let go of control easily. She'd dig, she'd guilt, she'd prove I was still in orbit. So when the knock came, 3 sharp, polite raps trying to mask the unraveling, I was already at the peephole. And I was ready. "Do you know what people will think of you?" Mom hissed. "Do you know what they'll say?" "Yes," I said quietly. "They'll say I finally stopped opening my door." She blinked. Her voice shrank. "You used to be kind." I didn't flinch. "You used to notice when I was in pain." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was dense, crammed with every boundary I had let them cross. Every yes I gave when I wanted to scream no. Every debt I'd quietly repaid in love, money, or time. 10 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up. Calm, quiet. An officer stepped out, tall, steady, hand near her belt, but relaxed. "Evening," she said. "We got a report of trespassing." Nodded. "That would be me." She glanced at them. My parents. Landon. Bags still stacked in their trunk. "Ma'am, sir," she addressed them. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises." "This is our daughter," Dad snapped. "This is a family matter." "This is her residence," the officer replied, cool and clear. "And you are not allowed to remain here without permission." Landon's jaw was tight, his face flushed. "You're going to regret this," he spat. "No," I said, stepping back into my apartment. "I've regretted almost everything until this moment." I didn't feel triumphant or bitter or broken. I just felt done. Done performing. Done explaining. Done being the oxygen mask for people who refuse to breathe on their own. Somewhere, they were probably rewriting the story again, casting me as the villain, the cold one, the ungrateful daughter. That's them. I didn't vanish. I just stopped. Letting them script my silence. They wrote their version, and now I've written it back. If you've made it this far, thank you. For listening. For witnessing. I didn't share this to be pitied. I didn't post screenshots to start a war. I shared my story because I know I'm not the only one who's ever been called ungrateful for having boundaries, selfish for choosing, peace, heartless for walking away from people who only loved what you could do, not who you are. Maybe you've been there too. Maybe you've spent years biting your tongue at family dinners, stretching your bank account to protect people who wouldn't do the same for you. Maybe you've said yes when your soul was screaming no, because disappointing others felt worse than betraying yourself. If that's you, I see you. And you're not alone anymore. Drop a comment if you've ever had to make that hard call. Cutting ties, stepping back, or just choosing silence over one more argument you'd never win. Tell me what part hit home, or just let me know you're out there, building peace in your own way. And if you're still stuck in it, still trying to find the line between compassion and self-erasure, here's what I've learned. Kindness without boundaries becomes self-destruction. You're allowed to love people and still protect your space. You're allowed to stop being the emergency contact for chaos. So hit that subscribe button if you believe in taking your story back. If you're done letting other people write your role. If you're rebuilding your life one healthy no at a time. I'm Tessa Monroe, and this isn't the story they'll tell at reunions. It's the one I'm telling for myself, and for anyone else who's finally ready to stop apologizing for breathing.